not met me yet, I'm Jake Johansson. I'm your city manager. Been here just short of a year. It's been a great year so far. And you know, one of the things that I knew before I came down here, and it's pretty evident, is that we live in a coastal city, and there's flooding here. I was just saying, I came from Norfolk, Virginia, another tidal coastal community, and the flooding there is much worse, but nonetheless an issue. The difference is I think we are set up and in a good place to do something about it here. Are we going to be able to do it in the next 2 weeks? No. Are we going to be able to do it with all City of Port Orange money? No. Do we need help from the outside? You bet we do. The good news is in my year here, I've developed some pretty good relationships with District Superintendent for FDOT, Ms. Norian Downs, who is a Port Orange resident, and some other key people, St. John's Water Management District, the folks up in Tallahassee, as well as some key other people that are willing to help us here. Mayor Green, a couple weeks ago, I'd say probably 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago, and I went to a water workshop on Saturday at Stetson University a couple months ago, and the mayor signed a water compact that concentrates on protecting the aquifer, protecting our rivers and streams, Spruce Creek, Rose Bay, Halifax River, and to talk and work regionally to solve flooding issues. So I think those couple items set us up well for the future in taking care of flooding problems. Tonight, I'd like to introduce you to our internal task force team. There's a bunch of key people here that work for the city that are going to be your touch points for flooding. And we work with all those external people that I kind of told you about to solve the problem regionally. I think some of you are probably, especially if you're in a flood zone, are familiar with the FEMA flood maps, what they were and what they will be. They're in final review to send back and get approved, and our floodplain manager will discuss those. I kind of told you who our partners are. There are more, but those are the key players. We're going to talk a little bit, our floodplain manager, I think, is going to talk a little bit about our CRS rating. Our CRS rating is basically our flood report card, and for everything we do to mitigate flooding, it gives you discounts on your flood insurance. For those of you that get flood insurance, you know that right now, and there's threat in the future, but right now, FEMA subsidizes our flood insurance. So we're not paying the full price. And if we did, boy, it would be expensive. So we need to keep those costs down, and our CRS rating provides a venue to be able to do that. We want your inputs. We have some photos up here. I know people have videos. I would like one place, a repository for all that information. So if you have that information here today, don't just hand it to us without giving us this is my address, this is my name, this is my contact information, this is where the flooding, this is where these pictures are. So as we start, doing that thing like you see on all the police shows and painting all your pictures up there next to the map, we don't go, where's this picture taken? For all I know, I'm bringing pictures of Norfolk. So make sure we know. We're going to discuss a little bit about who can help us, and to the same extent, who can't. the staff here is going to educate you on what we can do as a staff, and what we can't do as a staff. We can't pump out your your driveway because your neighbor's water goes into your water or into your driveway. But we can help you resolve that via zoning and other things in the future, maybe not immediately to solve your problem. And one thing to keep in mind tonight, I know this is hard and I know it's not going to work, but I'll put it out there anyhow. We're not here tonight to solve 50 individual problems. We're here to get a good handle of where we are in the city of Port Orange with flooding, where we can go, and provide some options for the future, and basically to educate you and gather information. That is not to say that I don't care about your personal problem. There are many ways to bring that information to the city to at least, I'll call it, open up a case. But we have, for those of you that are familiar, we have an online thing called Citizen Connection. Any personal property-like complaints we have, we put in Citizen Connection. Anything, not just flooding. The case stays open until it's closed. Flooding is going to be a long-term issue, so don't be upset if a year from now your case is still open. But the good news is once it's put in Citizen Connection, it gets a tracking number. You can always click on that tracking number, see where we are. So as we progress through the flood abatement things that we can do, and as we get those things funded, and as we get grant opportunities, we can provide updates to you all via Facebook, Twitter, special meetings, workshops, and via Citizen Connection. So that's kind of how we're going to communicate to you. In addition to these, this drumbeat of task force meetings, we'll probably meet with the public off and on to give you all updates. So that's kind of where we are. I think the next slide is an introduction of the team, if we haven't done that yet. And I'm going to turn it over to the Assistant City Manager here, Alan Rosen, who's going to guide you through the process. And believe me, we want to hear. We want to hear from you. That's why we're here. That's not just lip service. Believe me. I want to document everything that you all have seen, everything that you all. We have models that tell us where this water is and how deep it is, and I might have a model that says your area only floods 1 foot. But if you show me a picture where you're up to your waist, then I get why you don't believe me. Now, if you're in a pool up to your waist, then I might not believe you either. But we'll work through that, get to the ground truth, because the last thing I want to do, and I'm not going to get into detail about this, but the last thing I want to do is spend money solving a 1-foot flooding problem when it's a 5-foot flooding problem. If it's actually a 5-foot flooding problem, then either our model's off or our model's probably out. So then we got a bunch of guys that will adjust that model to reflect reality. All right, so I'll pass it off to Alan. Thank you very much for coming tonight, by the way. Thank you very much.
So welcome again. My name is Alan Rosen. I'm the Assistant City Manager, also on the Flooding Task Force team. What are we? Team. Thank you. Just to give you a quick introduction of who's going to kind of give you a little briefing tonight on certain topics related to flooding. First, we're going to have our Emergency Management Coordinator, if you might stand up real quick, is Jordan Guido. Public Works Director, Bradford Aduan. Risk Manager, Paula DeCera. And our Floodplain Manager, Larry Roberts. And then after they give you some talking points and some information and background on some of the things that the city is already doing, I'll come back up and we'll do a little interactive facilitated session and try to grab some of those ideas from you about your thoughts about flooding issues in the city. So we're going to go ahead and start here, and I've asked Jordan to go ahead and come up and talk about her information.
Hello. As he said, I'm Jordan Guido. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator with the city. I'm still relatively new in the position. I just got here in March. Prior to that, I was at the Pittsburgh Emergency Management Agency, which we dealt with a lot of flooding there, so different flooding, but I'm glad to see the amount of people that are here today. It's very good to hear about the different problems that have happened in the past to go forward, as I'm still getting acclimated to the city. There's a lot of flooding problems, not just in Central Florida, but throughout the country. And one of the biggest stressors that FEMA is talking about these days is people driving through floods. I know that sounds like common sense, but the number of people that are getting injured, or their cars are having problems, or we're even having fatalities, has gone up so much over the past 10 years. So basically, as simple as you can make it is, if you see a flooded road, turn around and go a different way. Don't try to drive through the flood. Half an inch of water can cause problems with your car, make you lose traction with your tires. A foot of water can move a small car, and 2 feet of water can move a large SUV. It's also important to be aware of the different alerts that come through from the National Weather Service. A weather watch, a flooding watch, is to be aware of the situation, and a weather warning means that flooding is happening in your area. There's a lot of programs available through FEMA, through their National Flood Insurance programs, such as the buyout program in different areas. And that's definitely something that we can look into and we can explore. But like Jake said, nothing will happen overnight, and it's definitely a process. And stuff like this is definitely a good start so that we can look at all of our options and see the best route to go. I was talking to a lot of you in the back about the emergency preparedness fair that's happening next month, and that is definitely a good source of resources going forward. There's going to be a lot of vendors there to talk to you about different ways to weatherize your home, and one of those ways to weatherize yourself is to make sure that you have a ready kit. I know that a lot of people that are from this area are very familiar with it, but hurricane amnesia is a very big problem. And it's important to take the time during the blue sky days to make sure that you have your ready kit, have your food, your water, and all the different things that you need to keep you safe. So turn it over to... Oh, and the pamphlets are in the back if you weren't able to get them in the beginning. Thank you.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Frank Olajumo, I'm Director of Public Works. I've been on the job 1 year, 3 months, but I've been working with municipalities for almost 30 years. This is my 4th city. I'd like to briefly talk to you about stormwater management, flooding, how we go about addressing flooding issues in Port Orange briefly, some few minutes. I kind of look at flooding as stormwater that has gone crazy. That means that if you take the normal stormwater that falls, if it's not managed properly, if water is not managed, that means water is not told where to go. Okay, then water is going to find somewhere to go, and usually it's not, in our best interest. It may end up at your homes. So a good stormwater drainage system, it's very important. And the way stormwater drainage works is the water falls on your property, it falls on the road, then it has to go somewhere. That is the first line of defense. It's called the swales. Okay? Those swales are along the roadside, and then you have catch basins. The water gets into the swale, gets into drainage pipes under the road. Okay, from there, it gets into ditches. From there, it gets into the canal. From there, it gets into the Halifax River and then to the sea. All these systems are all connected. And if there's a defect in one area, then it becomes very difficult to keep the water moving. And so then you see flooding happening. So how is this addressed? It can be addressed in three ways: maintenance, operations, and then capital. The maintenance part reflects your existing infrastructure in Port Orange. And although I still don't have the overall data to make a firm conclusion in terms of the percentage, having been in this business for almost 30 years, as I mentioned, and driving through the city, the infrastructure is not in the best shape, okay? I would say about 60% of the swales are filled with sediments, over decades of sediments. The pipes, when they fail and we take a look at them, 60 years, 70 years, they are corrugated metal pipes, they have holes in them. So imagine where the water is going. The ditches are also clogged, which we've been cleaning. So those systems that were built for all these decades must be replaced, must be fixed. So that is the maintenance component. And then of course you have the capital projects whereby you have to identify the retention ponds and the pumps and all of that, which then is a capital improvement project which you lay out across so many years. One point that I would like to make is stormwater drainage systems, again, are all connected. You cannot fix a problem locally in front of your house and then address the problem. It has to be looked at comprehensively because the water flows all the way, as I mentioned, from one point and then to the other. So in looking at addressing the stormwater issue in Port Orange, my experience has been in many cities that I know and have worked. You look at it comprehensively, you come up with a long-term plan. I think more so often we've been dealing with this issue in this city, looking at it in terms of in a localized fashion. Okay, something happens here, we want to address it at this point. But we need to be looking at it comprehensively. That comprehensive look is something called Stormwater Master Plan. Okay, you have a plan, you spend the resources to get that plan, and once you get that plan, then every year you try to execute that plan, every year for over maybe 10 years or 15 years. So I'm hoping, with your input and from the community, we should be heading ahead in this direction to be able to address these issues. We are very committed. Now, on the maintenance scale, we just received a new griddle, which is one of the best presents I ever received from the City Council. Because this is going to allow us to start digging all the dirt in the swales, which are the first line of stormwater control. So we are going to be starting doing a survey and using the equipment to start digging. It's going to be a lot of work to dig it all out so that the water will be able to flow. And that is it.
Good evening. My name is Paula DiChiara. I'm the risk manager for the city. What I'd like to share with you, what I do with the city is I work with and manage the insurance policies that cover our city for both property and general liability, auto, and workers' comp. And part of that is our flood management coverages. And I have lived here in Florida for the past 10 years and worked for the city for 2.5 years, so I'm very familiar with the flooding that goes on here in Florida. The other thing that I do is, that, I think it was Alan who mentioned early on that if you want to issue a concern about flooding with your property or near you, you might want to go on Citizen Connection and you write in and you let us know that something's happening in your home or your apartment or where you're living. That generally gets forwarded to me. And I take a look at it, and then I go to the proper person, whether it be Brantford or Mike Sylvie or Public Utilities, or whoever it may be that's now going to go out with me and either take a look, or they've already been out and they've taken a look, or we need to have experts that are going out that might be an engineering group or something like that. But I get involved in the investigations. If we had a FEMA event, then I would be working with our team to assist with FEMA, and and what they may need. And then finally, any of the issues that come up that either might be a side effect of the flooding, somebody got injured, somebody's auto got damaged, their properties. I try to be a resource for you, and as we've said here tonight, I can't fix it on that day. I can talk with you, I can work with you. I would ask some things that you do, which I will get to at the end, that are gonna make your issues maybe a little bit better to deal with. But overall, I'm one person in risk management, so I will do my best to get back to you and work with you. Real quickly and just very concise, those of you who either own homes or might be snowbirds or in a rental property or wherever you live here, and of course, your insurance agent is your expert. I'm not an insurance agent, but I will tell you, in doing this for over 20 years, what happens is, what you need to know, you need to know and look at your policies and say, what do I have and what zone I am in? And these experts will tell you that better. But very generally speaking, if you're in a zone B as in boy, C as in cat, or X, you're in fairly decent shape, okay? Those are your low risk zones. You have less than a 1% chance of flooding and should be okay. Now, that doesn't mean you're not gonna flood. You might flood. You might be living in a hollow area. You might be living somewhere where, like Alan said, you got a ton of rain and oh my God, now you're up to a foot of water. But those three zones, and your insurance agent will know, and any of the experts, if you wanted to call in, could tell you. The next zone are the A zones. If you've got a big A, like the scarlet red letter A on your policy, you're at risk. And those A's or A1s or A1A or anything with an A in it, you've got risk. And the way it's worded is it's a 1% chance of flooding of 1 to 3 feet, but in a 29-year life of a mortgage, you have a 1% chance of flooding for 26 of those years. So the insurance agents are looking at that and saying, you kind of got a pretty good sized risk here that you might flood. The very high zones, the worst ones to be in, are V. V zone is you're going to be flooding a lot. Insurance is mandatory. That's the coastal. You know, you're living over there on beachside, right on the beach. You've got storm waves, and you've got velocity problems. And you've got fast-moving floodwaters that happen a lot.